At 6:45 a.m., as dawn broke over southern Thailand and northern Malaysia, the rain didn't stop. It intensified. What had begun days earlier as a routine monsoon surge transformed overnight into one of the region's most destructive flooding events in recent years. Rivers burst their banks. Homes were swallowed whole. Highways disappeared beneath churning brown water. And by mid-morning, both nations were in a full-scale disaster. Malaysia and Thailand are no strangers to monsoon flooding, but this time something felt different. The rainfall totals were far beyond seasonal norms, relentless, heavy, and sustained. Meteorologists reported more than 300 millimetres of rain falling in just a few hours across Kelantan, Terengganu, Narathiwat, and Songkhla. Storm cells stalled over the region, dumping more water than drainage systems, dams, or rivers could handle. In Malaysia, the numbers rose fast. More than 11,000 people were displaced across 7 states as water surged into homes, schools, stores, and hospitals. At least 8 people were confirmed dead, with several more missing as rescue teams searched submerged villages where whole neighbourhoods vanished underwater. By sunrise, emergency sirens echoed across the hardest-hit regions. Evacuation centres overflowed. Parents carried children through waist-deep water, clutching bags of clothing above their heads as currents pushed against them. Boats, trucks, tractors, anything that could float became rescue vehicles. Images began circulating online showing rooftops barely visible above the rising floodwaters, with stranded families waving frantically for help. But it wasn't only Malaysia. Across the border in Thailand, the situation mirrored the chaos. Provinces like Narathiwat and Yala took the brunt of the storm. Water levels rose so quickly in some districts that residents had no time to evacuate. Entire ground floors were consumed in less than an hour, forcing terrified families to climb to second floors or roofs. Thai military units rushed in with inflatable boats to pull people from collapsed homes and drifting debris. Reports from Narathiwat described scenes of devastation. Cars stacked like toys in flooded intersections, electrical poles tilted sideways, and bridges washed away by rivers that turned into raging torrents. One resident told reporters, "The water came too fast, faster than any year before. We couldn't save anything." The combined force of this storm system hammered both countries simultaneously. A dual disaster fueled by a brutal monsoon surge and amplified by warming ocean temperatures that intensified the rainfall. Meteorological departments warned that climate patterns in the region are shifting, creating more frequent and more severe rainfall events. And this flood, they said, could be a glimpse of the new normal. As the disaster unfolded, Malaysia activated its National Disaster Management Agency, sending teams across flooded towns with rescue boats, drones, and medical kits. Schools and government buildings were converted into temporary shelters for families who had lost homes. In some areas, power cuts forced hundreds of thousands into darkness as technicians struggled to access flooded stations. One of the most heartbreaking reports came from Terengganu, where a father and his teenage son were swept away while attempting to navigate floodwaters on a motorcycle. In Kelantan, rescuers found vehicles submerged with victims still inside, trapped by fast-rising waters that engulfed the area overnight. Thailand faced its own tragedies. A woman in Songkhla was found holding her 3-year-old child on top of a refrigerator that had floated upward as her home filled with water. She did not survive, but the child was rescued. In another village, military rescue teams waded through muddy currents to free a group of elderly residents who had been trapped for nearly 12 hours without food or water. The economic impact will be severe. Agricultural lands are destroyed, thousands of livestock have died. Rice paddies, rubber farms, and fishing villages, the backbone of many rural communities, are damaged beyond quick repair. Roads linking major cities are underwater, cutting off supply routes for food, fuel, and medical supplies. Thailand's Southern Railway Line, a key transport route, was forced to suspend operations after tracks were submerged or washed out in multiple locations. Malaysia's highways saw massive congestion as floodwaters stranded motorists, forcing rescue teams to evacuate people from car roofs and bus windows. Meteorologists say the rains are far from over. More storms are expected this week, with forecasts predicting continued heavy rainfall that could worsen flooding in both countries. Government officials have urged residents to stay away from rivers and drainage canals, warning that sudden surges can happen without warning. As floodwaters rose, entire towns took on an apocalyptic appearance. Muddy water stretching as far as the eye could see, rooftops poking out like islands in a slow-moving sea, the sound of rescue boats echoing through neighbourhoods that had been bustling just days earlier. For families in both Thailand and Malaysia, the emotional toll is immeasurable. Many lost everything: homes, businesses, cherished belongings. Some lost parents, children, neighbours. Displaced families now sit in crowded shelters, staring at news reports of scenes identical to the ones they fled hours earlier. Climate experts warn that Southeast Asia is entering a dangerous new era. Warmer air holds more moisture, making storms more intense. Rising sea levels worsen storm surge. Urban development leaves little room for water to drain. Combined, these create catastrophic flooding events, even from storms that would have been manageable decades ago. Today, Thailand and Malaysia are living through that reality. Roads are rivers, towns are lakes, families are torn apart. And rescue efforts continue under dangerous conditions as water levels rise and currents grow stronger. The coming days will be critical. Officials warn that rivers could overflow again. Landslides are likely in hilly areas saturated by rain. More evacuations are expected as new storm bands approach. In the worst-hit regions, the water may not recede for days or even weeks. As this disaster continues unfolding, one truth stands out. Monsoon flooding may be annual, but this event is different. Larger, faster, and more destructive than the region has seen in years. And tonight, as thousands sleep on shelter floors or rooftops, listening to the relentless pounding of rain on metal roofs, many are asking the same question: when will it end?